Hey YouTube, it's ShryphonX here. Today, we're going to be talking about Four Knights of the Apocalypse, Chapter 216. Like and subscribe for more content. This King Arthur twist is absolutely incredible. Four Knights of the Apocalypse, Chapter 216 reveals some shocking spoilers. This chapter is a whopping 20 pages long. The cover page features Merlin and Escanor. The chapter picks up where we left off when Gowther asked Merlin if there was a way to fight chaos. Merlin replied that he couldn't reveal the secret right now because the servants of Camelot could be listening. However, Merlin does mention that this secret could change everything. It has the power to deal a fatal blow to the primordial deity, Chaos, and single-handedly erase the dimension of Camelot. Gawain dismisses the interruption as a rude interruption that turned into an important discussion. He points out that the bigger problem is why Merlin didn't tell him about this. Merlin explains that Gawain initially didn't want to hear it. Gawain asks who Kay was, and Merlin reveals that both she and Escanor faced circumstances that prevented them from raising Gawain properly. As his adopted brother, Kay was the first one to notice the changes in Arthur's behavior. So, he approached Merlin, who was holding baby Gawain at the time. Merlin asks Kay to raise her daughter because in the future, she will be one of the four knights of the apocalypse destined to rescue Arthur. Merlin acknowledges that he wasn't a natural parent, but he believes it was wise to let Kay raise Gawain. He says that he gave her more love than she anticipated. Merlin gave up Gawain to protect a certain secret by sending her away from this world. Despite this, she acknowledges that this is no excuse for being a bad mother. Balin inquires about Escanor, who reveals that he is already dead. Escanor's skeletal puppet body served as a mere vessel to hold his soul in this world. He feels remorse for sacrificing himself against the Demon King, as it prevented him from embracing his daughter. However, he was able to help raise her, even if that event was responsible for creating Gawain in the first place. Merlin explains that Escanor's life was consumed by the flames of his own creation after helping defeat the Demon King. Merlin witnessed Escanor burn from the very essence of his own being. Escanor's death left Merlin with a profound sense of loss she had never experienced before. In a desperate attempt to find love, Merlin kissed a man who loved her more than she could love him. However, she knew that her love for Meliodas could never be reciprocated. While she did allow Escanor's flames to burn her lips, Merlin took a small portion of his burning flesh, preserved it, and mixed it with her own. This act marked a significant departure from the norm, as she created life itself, or more specifically, a magical version of IVF. Gawain was not conceived within Merlin's womb, but was a fusion of Escanor and Merlin's flesh, achieved through a forbidden spell. This revelation is why Merlin chose not to disclose Gawain's true parentage to her, fearing it might lead to despair. Instead, Gawain embraced this discovery, feeling a sense of uniqueness and belonging. This aligns with her character's traits. Seven Deadly Sins continues to struggle with gender discourse. Gawain believes that her in vitro nature prevented her from loving anyone. Balin counters this notion, asserting that Gawain is loved by many people. Merlin reveals that Gawain's limited love for women was a result of a curse she placed on her as an infant. Merlin's reasoning was to prevent Gawain from enduring the same pain she endured, the anguish of an impossible love, her love for Meliodas. For Merlin, the solution to break the curse of love towards the opposite sex was a love curse towards the same sex. Within the same page, Merlin casts Curse Liberation, freeing Gawain from the curse of being forced to love the same sex. When Balin approaches to inquire if Gawain feels any different, Gawain blushes and finds Balin too close and too musky. This immediately comes across as insensitive towards the LGBT community. While this could be a reflection of Merlin's lack of understanding of love, The repeated emphasis on heterosexual dynamics and the use of queer baiting reveal the author's inconsistency and flippancy towards the serious matter of sexuality, even in fiction. It seems Nakaba is setting up an intriguing, divergent romance that he hasn't explored in the original series, only to revert to more conservative or louder voices. For instance, the concept of fairy sexuality involved making Nations more feminine. While it didn't necessarily erase Nations' queer identity, their rejection of the need to identify as male or female, it emphasized an aesthetic necessity to appeal to the audience's desire for fulfillment, at least of the heterosexual or reproductive variety. Even when Percival's choice to form a polygamous relationship with both and in Nations was certainly unique, it diminished the impact of Nations' revolutionary growth. A queer character openly and expressively loving a male protagonist within a shonen series that isn't explicitly identified or leaning towards boys' love. Returning to Merlin's Curse, some fans argue that it doesn't diminish Gawain's queerness because the chapter hasn't ruled out the possibility of Gawain still being able to love women. Gawain's story has always been about finding authentic love. The latter point, however, also feels like an insult to the LGBT experience, as if the curse makes readers believe that being homosexual or queer is a falsehood or a phase. That being said, there are also fans who point out that Gawain's queerness doesn't diminish the positive qualities of her relationship with Balin, a seemingly stoic male fighter. At the same time, the relationship between her current butler, Balin, is quite natural. There's no concept of sexual attraction or objectification, just a respect between equals, which is unfortunately less prevalent in the Seven Deadly Sins franchise. While King and Diane Ban and Elaine are great couples, both fairy couples have their issues. King and Diane's significant age gap is a glaring problem that's rarely discussed, and Elaine's role in the story is less prominent compared to her rival, Jericho, who audiences are more attached to. Gawain and Balin are shipped because Gawain has found someone she genuinely respects and wants to grow with, a premise that's superior to Gawain lusting over an attractive male and vice versa. Who is the Arthur in Camelot? Amidst these revelations, Escaner asks if Gawain will be able to forgive them, to which she responds with a firm no. However, Gawain rushes into her parents' arms, expressing her love for them. She tells them that if they want her to forgive them, they should hold her tightly until she says it's okay to let go. Escaner is deeply moved, having longed to embrace his daughter with his real body, but Gawain assures him that it's okay. Gawain asks her mother where she is and if there's a way to fight chaos, and Merlin responds that she must come find her and that the key lies within her. However, Merlin interrupts this loving moment, as she must leave and allow the puppet to take over auto mode for a while. Merlin instructs the puppet to return to the ship and commence cleaning. Merlin senses that someone is finally awake. The man with long hair inquires about the duration of his slumber, to which Merlin responds that it has only been 2 years, and he has significantly weakened. We observe a mark on the man's left chest, near his heart. The man inquires about the state of the battle, to which Merlin informs him that it remains dire. However, Merlin expresses optimism, stating that with Percival's return and the strengthening of the other 3 knights, they can overthrow chaos. We discover that the emaciated man Merlin is addressing is none other than his true master, the genuine King Arthur. This revelation comes as a significant twist. In essence, the 4 Knights of Prophecy have been engaged in a conflict against a false Arthur. There are 2 plausible explanations. The first possibility is that the current Arthur is possessed by chaos, and Merlin somehow managed to extract Arthur's soul, similar to how she did Escaner. However, Arthur is still alive. The second and more straightforward explanation is that Arthur was replaced by his illegitimate son, Mordred. Based on the current information, the first theory seems more probable. It has been established that anyone possessing a fragment of chaos loses their humanity. The four evils have lost their memories of their loved ones and are now solely devoted to obeying all of King Arthur's orders. Furthermore, chaos required Arthur's physical body specifically, so would not have survived elsewhere. This explanation also accounts for why Chaos Arthur appears barely aged, despite being 32 years old. While Arthur is not old, and many 30-year-olds do not experience significant aging, he still bears a striking resemblance to his youthful appearance, almost like Meliodas, a demon cursed with immortality. Alternatively, it's possible that Merlin somehow fragmented Arthur's physical body when the two personalities were forming within him. On the second possibility, one must wonder how Mordred could have acquired chaos. One possibility is that, like Gawain, Mordred was a creation, but Merlin did not create him. Perhaps Chaos, a nearly omnipotent primordial being, is responsible for such an unusual virgin birth. Alternatively, there might be someone akin to Morgause, Arthur's aunt, cousin, or relative, who had a child with him in the myths and is often merged with Morgan Le Fay. We'll have to wait and see. Thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe for more content. ShryphonX out.